Hello and welcome. Today will be a deep dive into July 1st. Um, we had so many free agent signings, over $1 billion in one day. It was a very exciting day, and I'm very excited to analyze it. Finally, take one more crack at hockey YouTube, but let's see where we go. So today, I created a tier list ranking whatever. I did both. They were in order. They got tiers. All of them have something. Giant whiteboard right here telling me everything. Hold on, let me check the light. Alright. Sorry if the light behind me distracts you. I can't fix that. Either way, let's get into it. So, free agency is ranked purely on July 1st. I'm ranking every team's July 1st. I'm not counting extensions before. I am counting extensions day of, mostly because I felt some teams were empty without it, because that was clearly their plan for the day. What I will say though is most of the extensions that came before today were all A's or higher. Like Reinhardt A plus, Gensel is an A. What was the other one? Oh, yeah, I'm completely blanking on it. Either way, most of the extensions before today were really good, at least for the big names. Uh, if like So take it as this team's ranking would be better if you put Sam Reinhart or Gensel or I can't even remember the third one that I was thinking. Either way, let's get on to it. To start, I have to ask: was Pat Verbeek's phone just not ringing this morning? If we take a look at the Anaheim Ducks, Uro Vakanainen and Brett Leeson. I actually don't know if was Leeson a Duck? Yep. So just re-signing Ducks on July 1st. Because I know Vakanainen was a Duck. They get F tier. I actually had an F plus tier, so I will note that but this was F minus. These guys are last. They are like, you know what, we're just gonna add a row below and then oh, and I'm also putting this in. It's like, oh, well, they did nothing. Like, how could that harm their team? They walked in here with the most cap space, $31 million. So many actual pieces on the table. And if they, like, Chicago made a better attempt at building their team for the playoffs than Anaheim today, and that is saying something. Chicago's so far out. San Jose made a better attempt at free agency than the Ducks, which is just mind-boggling. Anaheim is last. Or like a lot of teams did very little today, but most of those teams were in the position where they did not need to do much. So they'll be more in the C plus area, or C minus, or even D plus. But either way, Anaheim needed to do something. They did not. They're going downhill. They've I don't know what it is for Anaheim, but like if we take a look, actually, let's just take a look here at Anaheim. This is not a team that goes anywhere. Like you're just basically saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna grow for a year." But like again, Radko Gudas is really good. And I feel bad. Like 16 team no trade clause, Jesus. But yeah, they're just standing pat waiting for their guys even though they could have improved. 31 million in cap space. Did nothing with it. We're off to the next one and I accidentally wiped half the names here. So sorry for the light, but I can read. So next up is the Columbus Blue Jackets. Another we did barely anything, but they signed one of the worst contracts of the day with Sean Monahan. I don't know why they did it. Sean Monahan is not a $5 million player. He will not be a $5 million player for 5 years, and he will not be a $5.5 million player for 5 years. And the worst thing about it that made me put this in F, like, I would have had it in D. Oh, Jesus, I'm just stupid today. I would have had it in D if it was just that signing, is you have Adam Fantilli, and you just drafted Caden Lindstrom, who I think isn't signed yet. So you're saying Lindstrom, unless you're going to put Monahan on the wing, but I'm pretty sure they announced Monahan as a center. Like, Lindstrom, Fantilli, you have Boone Jenner. You're going to make Lindstrom go on the wing when he's a C. Now, if not, then cool. Sure, that still doesn't change the fact that this signing sucks and they did nothing else. Very mute day. They still only have signed an NHL contract defenseman. Although I like David Jiricek, so I think he's gonna come up. Either way, not a good day for Columbus. Next up, this one was a little happy for me to see. The Los Angeles Kings had the worst contract of the day. Joel Edmondson shouldn't have even got $2 million. How teams were fighting for him at 3.8, I will never understand. It is a very, like, pipe dream of mine to become an administrator in the NHL, preferably an assistant general manager. It's days like these with the Los Angeles Kings that make me think I could do better. Because, wow. And then there's also the signing of Warren Foegele, which, I mean, while in practice it's fine, the fact is you let Arvidsson go for just $500,000 more, who is a much better player. Warren Foegele, as a guy who is an Oilers fan and has watched the Oilers, and specifically was a fan of Foegele, Foegele can't score. He can't. He gets so many plays. You'll see him get so many chances, and he will do half of nothing with them. It's a depressing sight. I think if Byfield gains a scoring touch, I think he actually could be good with Byfield, which, now granted, is why I have the LA Kings at an F+. I also put them down in F+ because they signed Trevor Lewis, who I don't think should be even considered for a contract right now. But Joel Edmondson's contract is bad. My one thing is LA is taking steps backwards in a division that is going forward. And so I can't really see them doing like anything great with this. Warren Foegele might turn out fine. I'm saying that right now. Foegele might be fine. And if so, I'd probably say it goes up to a D. But I'm predicting Warren Foegele to not perform like he did on the Oilers without Draisaitl. And it's not the prettiest. Next up, we have the Seattle Kraken, who signed 2 major contracts of the day, both of which I think are massive overpays. Brandon Montour is good because he played in Florida, just as Warren Foegele was good because he played in Edmonton. Both were products of a system that allowed them to thrive. And as opposed to Warren Foegele, who is still limited in the system, Brandon Montour really got to show the world what he was. Unfortunately, the Seattle Kraken are a defense-first team. And Chandler Stevenson does not deserve $6 million. I'd understand a $4 million, Honestly, like, if you want to go high and risk it, it's free agency. But Chandler Stevenson's contract, while I initially was like, oh, that ain't bad, I took a thought and I'm like, what has Chandler Stevenson done to deserve 6.25 mil? Because I'm an analytics guy. And not much. 6 mil is expensive. For, to give an example of a $6 million player, Zach Hyman is paid $5.5 million, and he scored over 50 goals this season. Now that's an unfair comparison, but take the exact opposite of that performance, add $750 million, and that's what I think you're getting here. With Chandler Stevenson, I don't see him thriving in this environment, and the dumbest thing is why they are in. Did I put them at D? Oh, they're in F tier. I have them at D minus. I'm putting them in F tier. But why I dislike it is because Chandler Stevenson, center. Now, if we take a look, the Seattle Kraken have a player known as Matthew Beniers, and they also have a player known as Shane Wright in the minors. This signing makes me think they are trading one of them, and it's probably Shane Wright in the next 3 years. Nobody wants to play behind Chandler Stevenson when you have the potential to be a first liner, and yes, I still think Wright has that potential. I don't see 6 million for a guy who should be on the third line, but even then you have Jared McCann. If Jared McCann plays center, you are, and I like Jared McCann is an excellent player. You are lost at that point with this contract. I could understand a team like San Jose signing this. Seattle is pushing for a playoff spot. And this will go into a narrative I'm going to get in later when I talk about Utah. But the Pacific is an increasingly competitive division. And this is their attempt to remain in that race. Should have gone after a goalie, man. I mean, I don't see this lineup making playoffs, unfortunately. Unless Brandon Montour somehow revitalizes the Seattle Kraken system and just goes off, I don't see Montour doing well either. Next up, I have an unfortunate casualty because I have friends who like this team. But we are going into the Dallas Stars. Who I originally had at a D, but I'm putting them down to D minus because why is Ilya Lyubushkin signed for 3.25? More importantly, why is Matt Dumba signed for almost $4 million? And we're really paying Brendan Smith? They signed Nils Lundqvist later. Like, I do not know why they signed Brendan Smith. Okay, you know what? Actually, I'm putting them back to D because I realized why I put them there. I don't hate the Casey DeSmith signing, and I like the Duchesne signing. The Duchesne signing is really good. The problem is their problem wasn't on offense. It was on defense. They needed to replace half their core. And they chose Lyubushkin and Dumba. And Brendan Smith before they signed Lundqvist, who Pete DeBoer hates. So, yeah, this is not a good off. Like, this was a horrible day for Dallas, aside from Duchesne. Like, Duchesne, again, excellent contract. And if we ignored the rest of this, all right, if we took a step back and took the contracts at value with how they don't impact the team, Dallas would probably be C plus because of how good the Duchesne contract is. But unfortunately, I do take into team context, and they need a defense. Lyubushkin and Dumba earned that. And so, yeah, Dallas stays in D tier. Ah, man. Like, do I bump that? No, that's... Maybe I put LA over, because I don't hate Fogle, I just hate the Edmondson signing. Maybe that's Oilers bias, but either way. All right, next up, finally, past the erased ones, we are going to Ottawa in the, I believe, D tier. Yes, the Ottawa Senators go into the D tier, and you may ask, why are they a D tier team? They didn't do much, and David Perron is a okay signing. Michael Amadio is an okay signing. Noah Gregor is an okay signing. And this would get them like a C to C plus is what I was having them before I remembered, oh yeah, I'm taking into all of July 1st, including the trades. This trade is awful. I do not know what was going on. But this was an awful trade. Chychrun for Jensen and a third. The difference between Jensen and Chychrun is $550,000, and you got a third for that. That's awful. Perron, also what I realized after my initial C plus is 36. They're trying to do what they did with Drew here, but I don't know if Perron has that scoring touch for much longer. It's already been on decline, and I know Detroit had a weird season last season, but it wasn't an entirely bad one. And I don't see Perron doing this. Now, I will also note my bias. I went into this as neutral as I can, but I hate the Ottawa Senators. I'll just say it right now. My least favorite team in the league. Bar Vegas. Either way, I don't like this free agency at all. Even if I was a fan of them, I wouldn't be happy. Nobody liked that Chychrun trade. Not a soul. And, yeah. Even if you think Nick Jensen is a good return piece, you lost Chychrun. I'm valuing the difference of that, and that is bad. Jesus. Alright. Next up, we have, this one's going to be controversial. I know it will be, and I gotta see, where did I put it? Okay. I'm gonna up this. I had it in D. I'm putting it to D+. I'm putting the Boston Bruins. I don't like Elias Lindholm. I think he is not a first-line center. I'd wager he's a mid-second-line center. He's an excellent third C, but he has a reputation of defense, which he has not upheld aside from the season where he was carried by a Selke-level Kachuk performance and Johnny Gaudreau doing Johnny Gaudreau peak things. He is just an overall, he didn't have a good year. Alright, let's look at the point totals of Elias Lindholm for a second. Besides my analytics brain, 32 points of 49 games on Calgary isn't bad. 12 and 26 for Vancouver, not great. And to be fair, he did okay in the playoffs. I'd know. My team played against him. However, 750. The Bruins are known for discounts. Alright. Oh. Sorry for me becoming whiter than sour cream there. I think I don't see why he is paid more than Brad Marchand. And for 7 years, till he's 36, Elias Lindholm won't be worth 7.750 this season. He won't be worth 7.750 in 7 seasons. That's not happening. I think this ends in a buyout. And I don't like buyouts, and that is why it is low. Nikita Zadorov is a conflicting one. Because, alright, again, I'm an Oilers fan, but I kind of like Nikita Zadorov. I know he had beef with Evander Kane, but I care less about Kane. But he's He's a sight to watch. The only problem is he's not a $5 million sight to watch. He's big. He's been freaking pushed off of a puck, like out of a chick by Connor McDavid of all people, who's not the strongest, not the weakest, but like you're getting bounced by that guy. Eh, for your size, you should not be getting bounced at all by guys that are not your size. But I don't really care about the physical side of the game. I care about the technicals. And this guy, while scoring probably the nicest looking goal on the Oilers the whole playoffs, I don't see 5 million. I do think he'll still be good at 35, weirdly. I think a 3 to 3.5 would have been nice, but I just hate that Lindholm contract so much, which is why I put him in D. Next team in the D plus tier is the New York Rangers. Honestly, they just signed Sam Carrick. Or were they the ones that made the other trade? Yeah, they signed Sam Carrick, which I think is an awful idea. And then brought in Riley Smith. I think I could be persuaded higher on this ranking, but I just like, why are you signing Sam Carrick? And Riley Smith is not that piece. He's not that piece. I think the Rangers have severely limited. I guess this is why I put it D plus. They aren't getting past the conference finals again. Unless it's by the year after President's Trophy magic, but I don't see them getting past the team coming out of the Atlantic again, and that sucks for them. Happy for me, though. Yeah, not great. So then we go to 23rd, and this one is, I believe I had them at a C minus. Yeah, I think C minus might be the most populated tier. But the Tampa Bay Lightning did barely anything. That's really it. They certainly existed. On the next team, I don't know which one to choose here, so we're gonna put both of them up. I think I'm gonna do this just because I stated this earlier. So Detroit will go first. Why did they sign Talbot and Campbell? Is why they're C minus. Everything else, honestly, I really like the Gustafsson signing. That would have probably had him at a B minus. Cam Talbot, don't know why you're signing him. And then why Jack Campbell? I mean, I really like that Gustafsson contract, but I don't know why you're signing Cam Talbot. He's 36. And he's not exactly coming off a stellar year. He got smoked in the playoffs. Like, I don't know why they got him. And then St. Louis signed Kasperi Kapanen. You know what? Kasperi Kapanen's the GOAT. I don't care. We're putting him C minus. Realistically, 22nd and 23rd can be interchanged. I don't care. They're in the same tier for a reason. It means they're close. Being out of the same tier, we got I guess it should be here, Minnesota Wild, who, like, got a minus because of risk. I'm not, like, mad at the Trenin or Middleton contract. In fact, I like Yakov Trenin. The one problem is like, the prices are a slight risk. And Minnesota's never been known for having the most stellar contracts, but never, like, they bought out Parise and Suter. I don't know what Minnesota really can do in this situation, but I don't know. To me, it seems like both were average moves with a little bit too much risk on them. So that's why I have them in C minus, and C. They could easily be there. Now the closest to C tier, and I almost put them there. I mean, you just saw it, but it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. I like, and this is the most flip flop. Tanev is a good than bad contract. Don't know why you brought Matt Murray back, but that's irrelevant. Why did you bring Oliver Ekman-Larsson in? And I like Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz. But I have an emphasis on the long term because this free agency had shadows of 2016 flashing in my mind. You take a look at the Leafs here. What is this defense like? You have so many defensemen. And you still fight with the fact that Timothy Liljegren exists in your organization when he's a good defenseman. Play him. You have to trust a defenseman for him to get anywhere. Now, here's the one positive with Tanev. I think for the first 2 years of this contract, him and Morgan Riley will be potentially a match made in heaven. Now, I could be wrong. I haven't kept up with the Leafs over the years, and I know Tanev was a former Leaf, so I don't know if they ever tried this. But Morgan Riley is an issue with the Leafs. I think he's actually he's every great team needs a number one D. New York had Fox, Florida had Forsling of all people, but Forsling's great. I can't hate on Forsling. It was just a surprise to see Forsling do so well. Edmonton had Bouchard, and Dallas had Heiskanen. That's the top four that you need to beat. All of which are at worst top 10 defensemen. This season, you could argue a few of them were top 5. You need a top 10 defenseman. Morgan Riley is not that. Because the Leafs want to win the Cup. Whether you want to pull the first round jokes or not, their objective is win the Stanley Cup. And I don't see this team doing it. As a re-sign, I kind of liked Domi's price. But Matthews, Nylander, Tavares is taking a step back again. Marner might be traded. I think the Marner trade will determine the outcome of the season. But I can't see the Leafs going anywhere with this defense. People have had the narrative on the Oilers they're bad, that they have a really bad defense core. Nurse CC pairing doesn't really do them well. But if you really want to go into a truly bad defense core, aside from Tanev and Liljegren, this is mediocre to garbage. Even if you put Liljegren in there, from how Leafs fans describe Liljegren, instead of my own personal opinion, everything that isn't Christopher Tanev here is mediocre at best. And you can't have a mediocre at best defense. Edmonton would not have made it to the finals if they didn't move the pairings around and have Nurse Broberg and take CC out of the lineup and have Gulak Darnay. That saved their season. They had to take out the problem child and put in what were 2 solid pairings. They have no excellence here. Forsling Ekblad is an amazing pairing. Heiskanen and Harley, amazing pairing. Ekholm Bouchard, amazing pairing. Fox and Lindgren, good pairing. Great pairing. Hell, the Dallas and Edmonton were probably, I would say, the 2 best pairings of last year. And I'm talking the season. Alright, I'm not saying overall. Cale Makar, Devin Taves can bounce back and be better, but last season they weren't. Either way, it's insanely impressive to see that the Leafs keep on thinking that the forwards are the problem. We need to fix this defense. And Nicholas Robertson requesting a trade. If like we'll get into the Oilers signings quite a lot later in this list, but if one specific one didn't go down, I wanted us to get Robertson. Because truthfully, God, Nicholas Robertson asking for a trade is hilarious. I know it's not a July 1st thing, but I laughed. And I'm like, if any team that needs a scorer needs to go for Robertson right now. Because I think he will be an amazing breakout talent. Potentially a 60-point guy if you can get him in the top 6. On a good team, I should say. So I think Robertson should be a guy that people are looking out for right now. And I think it's fun. All right, so we are done with the C minuses. We go into the C's, I believe. Yes, C. And our first C tier is Vegas. I'm pretty sure they just did nothing because they didn't have to do anything. None of these signings move the needle. I'm not mad. I'm not sad about any of these. They exist. Next up is, I just want to make sure that they are, yep, the Buffalo Sabres, who, weirdly enough, you could argue had a worse free agency, but I'm a man who is very focused on risk mitigation this time around. And what did they do wrong? I love that Lafferty contract. Bring back Bryson is alright. Gilbert, alright. Albe Kubel, alright. And Zucker is a risk. How, Zucker's a risk. He's not worth $5 million. Which is why it's a C. If Zucker was at, 4, I'd have this at a C+. It's a fine... again, Lafferty's good. Zucker's okay. They're just trying to add some top 6 mojo, and I perfectly get it. My next one is probably my second most controversial, but I think most people will see the light on this one. I put Nashville at C because I'm confused on where to put these guys. Risk mitigation is something that I'm very heavily fond of when ranking these. So Brady Shea at 7x7 doesn't exactly please my eyes or my brain. UC Saros extension, amazing. If that Saros extension wasn't here, Nashville might be in the D plus tier right now, maybe D. Steven Stamkos, great player. 4x8 until he's 38. Not a great contract. Marsh, so 5x5.5, I think most people realize is good for now. But it's gonna be good. One thing I will say, and also Alex Carrier, just a good signing. I like that signing. It make my brain happy. He good defensively. And that was either way. So that big 3 all signing at once, I think put a lot of shockwaves in people's system, but I think the more and more time goes on, the more they're gonna kind of regret this. I do want to appreciate Nashville for doing 2 things though. Number 1, I like the fact that Nashville wants to compete. I thought they were just going to be a middling retool, maybe even try to rebuild, but the re-signing of Saros confirmed, hey, Trotz wants to make this team challenge for a cup. One problem with that is, alright, you have your number 1D. The rest of this defense is nowhere. And this offense is confusing. I like Thomas Novak. Ryan O'Reilly's interesting. Now you got Stamkos and Marshall, so Gustav Nyquist is okay. This isn't a deep in the playoffs team. And I think that Trotz might actually do some midseason trades to try and change that. Now I'm gonna look forward to it, but for now, the flux of highs and lows makes me put Nashville at a C. I don't like the big three set of contracts. I think they'll age poorly, but I think right now, Marchessault's is good, Stamkos's is fine, and Shea's just bad for the whole term. I think they're trying to make Shea. No, what? She's their second. That's a nurse. That is a nurse contract. Holy cow. I kind of want to do that, but I like Stamkos a little bit too much for that. But that is a nurse contract. Ow. All right. Next up, Nashville. Okay, this one. Let's see where I put them. All right, we're moving to the C plus tier here. The Winnipeg Jets didn't do much today. However, what they did was positive, so they get a C plus. That's really it. Colin Miller is okay at that price. I will also, I would just like to say, all right, two things. All right, I may be like, all right, this is just flexing here. But I predicted the exact prices of Colin Miller and Anthony Mantha when I was trying to do armchair GM for the Oilers. Now, I'm not saying that I should be the general manager of the Oilers. It is a dream, but definitely not happening, especially at 19. But it's funny how I've been invested heavily into NHL free agency since probably about 14 years old. No, yeah. Once the effects of Milan Lucic happened, I became heavily invested in free agency, and most of them kind of sucked. But this is the most interesting free agency, and I'm glad I was able to kind of keep up. The one thing that I didn't predict was like Connor Brown going as low as 1, but then I had the trade-off with Arvidsson going 4. I'm getting way ahead of myself. You know the team that I like, all right? All right. Winnipeg, they existed. Number 14. This one's a weird one, but Pittsburgh didn't really do anything wrong today. Again, C plus is you're just above average. You did things that helped your team, but you didn't move the needle. And that's exactly what I think happened here. Grizzlick's fine. Beauvillier, you're taking a chance on somebody. Bemstrom, you're taking a chance on somebody. I kind of like the Lizotte signing, if I'm going to be honest. It almost made me bump him up to B-. I'm not going to do it. Just because Lizotte could not pan out. But I think this could be a good free agency in relativity. I don't think it moves any needles, but it's fine. Welcome to the C plus tier. Next up, rest in peace, Arizona. You get the the Arizona Coyotes are the true winners of this. They beat the Oilers twice in a row, one of which I was literally there. It was actually the day that it got confirmed they were moving to Utah. So now that we talk about this, we're gonna put them in F. No, I'm kidding. Obviously they're going. I believe I have them in C plus. Utah existed. Now, if we were to go into their earlier moves, specifically in the draft, I'd say they were probably in the B tier. But I just like the Ian Cole signing, and Stenlund is a player that can do things. Like, Ian Cole got a really bad reputation this playoffs, especially amongst Canucks fans. As somebody on the opposing side of that, I saw what he did wrong, but I'm also not going to act like he isn't one of the best defensive defensemen in the league most of the time. And that most of the time, people really, like, dwell on low light bias with players like Ian Cole and Evan Bouchard, if I'm to name an Oiler. I could also say Darnell Nurse, but he had a pretty down season this year, so I'm not going to go there. But the low light bias is definitely there for Ian Cole, and I think he'll prove a lot of people wrong in Utah, so which is why I think it's a positive move for Utah. Next up, I will also note, I think I said this already, but I scale like the weight of the decisions based on the importance of the team. The Kevin Stenlund signing is less important than the Ian Cole signing, which is why it's a positive. Stenlund is a non-factor in my opinion, with a bit of an overprice for the cup tax, but who cares? Overpriced by 500 grand. Whoop-de-doo. Next up. Oh yeah, the team I actually forgot in my initial rankings, the Colorado Avalanche. You get a B-. When I was writing all the teams down on my beautiful whiteboard here. Okay, actually I probably shouldn't have done that. When I was writing all the teams down in order, I forgot Colorado. I kind of feel bad for that because Colorado did okay. Looking at them, they re-signed Jonathan Drouin, got Joel Kiviranta, Calvin DeHaan at a low price. They just made 3 good moves and signed Parker Kelly, or Kelly Park. Nope, Parker Kelly. Either way, just 3 tiny good moves, and Parker Kelly, who I'm not really informed on. So yeah, I can't hate it. I think it goes in the B- because all the other C pluses had at least like one negative thing about them. That's why we start the B- with Colorado, and I'm fine with that. So let's move on to an interesting one, I would say, and that's the Vancouver Canucks. Initially, I wanted to go lower, but I had to like take a step back. Vincent Desharnais isn't that bad. Jake DeBrusk isn't that bad. And Danton Heinen is kind of a decent signing. But I do, again, have to take account from risk mitigation. Jake DeBrusk won't be a $5.5 million player when he is 34, but I don't think they care about that. I think what they care about is him being a 5.5 player over the next 3 years. And I'm iffy on it, but we're in the positive range, so I viewed it as a minor positive. I think the contract could go south very quickly because to me, Jake DeBrusk hasn't proved anything but his defensive prowess. But Vancouver, I mean, they could use some more defensive prowess in their forward core, but I honestly think Pettersson's really good defensively when he like actually commits to it. Like during the playoffs, he got a lot of flack for not scoring, and to be fair, he missed some great shots. But he was always good defensively. I'd say he was like the biggest reason, or one of the biggest reasons, the Oilers weren't constantly lighting it up on Seelovs. And I liked Pettersson during that, but I don't think DeBrusk does anything for this Vancouver core aside from pushes some players down. Like Podkolzin is buried right now. He's on the 4th now. I don't know where Hoglander fits in because the Canucks have some weird lines. I know a lot of Canucks fans got some weird sets of lines, but we have the Canucks as a positive because I think that these signings can all turn out moderately well, except I don't like the Desharnais contract. He was an Oiler. We let him go for a reason. And $2 million little expensive, but you're not gonna cry over that. Again, wait. DeBrusk weighs a lot more than Vincent Desharnais in this free agency, so Desharnais, like, all he did was bump it from a B to a B minus. That's about it. Next up, we got the New Jersey Devils. Where did I put these guys? Still in the B minus. The New Jersey Devils got sniped in free agency today. They were in on Marchessault and Stamkos first, and they got them ripped out of their hands by Nashville. And I was laughing. And then I realized might have saved them. I like the Nason signing. Dylan signing is but I also like the Pesce signing. That's really all there needs to be discussed. Pesce's a solid defenseman. Stefan Nason is a great two-way forward. Very efficient. And while I think he fit Carolina's system quite well, I think he'll also do like similar levels of decent on New Jersey. I don't see any reason why he would step back. But I don't know. I'm kind of just fine with this. And Dylan's a little bit rough, so maybe they should have been C+, but I really like the Pesce signing and the Nason signing, so that is why they're here. The next up, we have, yes, the Calgary Flames. For a team that didn't need to do much, they did well. Sharangovich, the extension's risky, but I like Sharangovich, so I'm fine with it. Mantha is clear, like, deadline bait. I hope he saw that when he signed the contract, but yeah, I honestly, what I will say is, I would have taken Mantha at this over Skinner at 3, mostly just because Mantha's good at defense, but Anthony Mantha is a Flames like style player, and I think he will do really well there. So I think what he's doing is he's going for a payday. He realized he can fit within the Flames culture and do well. Jake Bean exists. Blomberg again exists. It's the Stenlund contract 2.0, but these two, I really like the extension and the contract. So, yeah, that's why Flames are 10th. All right, at number 9, we have the San Jose Sharks, who, realistically, were just trolls. Oh, wait, did I put them in B+? They're, I think. Sorry. They were just trolls today. They said, hey, we're going to take 2 guys off the market. And while you may think, hold up, that's 2 overpays. San Jose doesn't care, nor do I. Because what this does is it gives a developing youth core experienced players to learn from. They had to pay the premium, so they'd come to San Jose. I think Toffoli gets traded in like a year. It takes on that contract with retention and says sayonara. But, sorry about that. I like this. San Jose was just having fun today. I think it's funny that they took 2 pieces off the market that could have gone to a team that needed them. The Florida Panthers are my next pick. And I have an asterisk by them because if I included the Gensel signing, or not Gensel, Reinhardt signing, they'd be like in this range. Because that is an A+ signing. It's very impactful. Amazing contract, but we're not. So we have a bunch of, like, I put Colorado up to B- because they had a bunch of good signings. They just had more good tiny signings, which is why I liked them. And they were useful. These 2 teams aren't going anywhere. Florida is, and I think they've just tried to patch the holes that they could, aside from Montour. But you can't really patch that with the cap space you had, so I'm fine with it. Next up, I believe we're starting to enter... No, we have one more B tier. Philadelphia, who did one thing, and it's a good thing. You could put Philadelphia at C if you really wanted to, but I counted the Michkov contract. and I also like the Garnet Hathaway contract. So we have him at B. That's it. No reason to go on Philly. Next up is the New York Islanders, and they signed 2 people. But I like Anthony Duclair, and I like Mike Riley. I think Riley will be fine on New York. Holy cow. Oh. But Anthony Duclair, I think, once New York finds their identity, they have a lot of speedy guys. And he's just going to be contributing to that style of play. And I think he'll thrive in it. I like the Duclair signing. I don't think it's the best signing of the day. I saw MB on Hockey put it as the number 1 signing of the day. And that's absolute homer bias. I will have my own homer bias here. Don't you worry. I will have my homer bias. But it's a good signing. That's what it is. Next up, we have Le Canadien de Montreal. And not sorry for my abysmal French. My dad didn't teach me. But Montreal did 2 things. They signed Alex Barré-Boulet, who's low risk, come in, and they signed Slavkovsky, Mr. Bust himself, to an 8-year, $60 million deal. That at first I was like, that's risky, and then I thought about it for like a minute, and I'm like, that's amazing. Back half of the season, Slavkovsky was amazing. I can't really hate this. It's a great value signing that I think Montreal will love. I think the Suzuki signing has kind of lost some of its valor, even though when it initially happened, I had written an article about how it's better than Brady Tkachuk's, because that happened at the same time. But I think that this pair needs to start competing, because they're kind of going stale. I'm not the biggest fan of Nick Suzuki, but Slavkovsky on this contract, honestly, I think he should have been paid 8. I think he'll be better than Suzuki and Caulfield in the end. And so I think one move, but a darn good one for Montreal. Next up, we go into the A-minuses. Yes, we have 5 teams with an A in front of them. And we start, or 4 teams, an A in front of them, sorry. And we start with the Chicago Blackhawks. Chicago needed pieces to play with Bedard and make the step towards becoming a playoff team in a couple of years. That's exactly what they did. The only contract I really question is Alec Martinez, but it's a body to fill the cap floor. Teuvo Teravainen, I did not expect going there. And Tyler Bertuzzi also did not expect. But they're both at solid to great deals. Teravainen kind of took an undercut, if you ask me. And TJ Brody is fine. Craig Smith is fine. Again, I think they just had anywhere between fine and good, and then Patrick Maroon, who doesn't matter. So yeah, I really liked Chicago. I think they were a better version of what San Jose did today, just because they were less trolly and more like trying to actually develop. And I look forward to what that roster will look like in year 3 of Bertuzzi's contract. I think this team might be pushing for a playoff spot once Teravainen's contract is running out. And we will get into a point. Actually, you know what? Now's the time. Here is my little segment on why the NHL is more competitive than it's ever been, and this will mean disaster for a lot of teams. Let's take a look. We're going to start with the Central Division. Who, out of the entire Central Division, is not pushing for a playoff spot? The answer is this team, Chicago Blackhawks. Anyone else? All pushing. All 7 of these teams want a playoff spot. We go to the Pacific. Edmonton wants a playoff spot. Los Angeles wants a playoff spot. Seattle wants a playoff spot. Vancouver wants a playoff spot. Vegas. 5 teams. So you got 12 out of 16 teams in the West pushing for a playoff spot. Here we have Carolina pushing for a playoff spot. New Jersey pushing for a playoff spot. New York, Philly, Pittsburgh, Capitals. All of these teams are pushing for a playoff spot, and Columbus wouldn't mind it either. Atlantic, Boston, Buffalo, Detroit, Florida, Montreal is now in that push, or soon will be. Ottawa thinks they're in that push. They're probably last. Tampa and the Leafs. Like, there are three divisions with maybe one team not pushing for the playoffs this year. Let's look at Montreal. Okay, they're not making a playoff spot this year. So Montreal's not. Ottawa is trying. Columbus would like to, but they're outmatched. Every other team in those divisions are trying to make a playoff spot. We have an era where take out the Pacific Division, 21 out of 24 teams are vying for a playoff spot. This is hockey, baby. I am so looking forward to this season because the salary cap, say what you will about it, that it doesn't actually cause parity or whatever. This wouldn't be possible without the salary cap. There would not be this much like skill spread across so many teams enough that every single team almost is vying for a playoff spot. The Pacific is the only division with tankers, and after having a couple seasons of being an underrated division, they've gone back to being the worst division in hockey. Yeah, not a fan. However, this season is going to be fun. If you want my playoff predictions here, real quick, Oilers, Vegas, Canucks are all that's coming out of the Pacific. Dallas, Nashville, Colorado, St. Louis, and one of Winnipeg or Utah. I'll entertain Utah, actually. Then Carolina, New Jersey, New York, and Philly. Boston, Tampa, Florida. I want to say Detroit. No, I'll say Toronto, but I think Detroit can do it. Either way, so many teams are pushing for the playoff spot right now. It's amazing. So now as we get into our top three, all three of these teams are pushing for a playoff spot. And we got the Washington Capitals at A- in third place. Oh. The Washington Capitals would not be up here if it weren't for the trade today. Chicken was a steal. But Matt Roy, I really like that signing. One of the most underrated defensemen in the league, getting in at a $6 million price. People who don't watch hockey or don't follow hockey will be confused at this signing. But it's a great signing. As long as Matt Roy can replicate what he did in LA, and I think he can. I like McMichael, fine extension, but the chicken trade was funny. I gave Washington an A- because I felt generous and because they didn't really misstep in any direction here. They got two really good deals and a couple okay ones. It's fine and good. Yeah, Washington gets a very mellow A-. Now, going into a team that I see some people say didn't do great, but I hardly agree with that statement. Just because they lost a couple pieces doesn't mean the Carolina Hurricanes don't deserve to be an A tier for what they did today. Eric Tulsky did a splendid job today. This extension remains one of, if not the best contracts in the league. Okay, maybe 39 is a little long, but Jacob Slavin is the most underrated defenseman in the league. Year in, year out. Guy is a two-way monster, and I don't think I've ever seen him in a top 5 list that wasn't made by a dude who runs an analytics company. William Carrier, great two-way player. Jordan Martinook being re-signed. Great two-way player, market value. William Carrier, undervalued. Tyson Yost is a 13th forward who can do things. John Walker, great contract. Shane Gostisbehere, risky, but I like the contract. I like Shane Gostisbehere personally and how he plays, and I think he will be great on Carolina. They had no misses. That's why they get an A. They're not an A plus just because they didn't drastically move the needle. I think you need to make a big signing to make it A plus, and that's why no team did. I'm telling you right now, as we move on, the next team doesn't have an A plus. But I think in terms of pure consistency, I'd actually rank Carolina number 1. But the moves that they made weren't as needle moving as our first place option, which, call me a homer. I don't care. I will tell you the journey that this team had. Started out with the Arvidsson signing, which was here. Then we get news of Josh Brown, which okay, he's not gonna play much, but that's still not a great signing. Then we get news of Jeff Skinner. We also got Connor Brown earlier, which would have actually put it here, so put Josh Brown here. Then we get news of Matthias Janmark. And then Adam Henrique is back. And Troy Stetcher. And Connor Carrick is a player, I guess. The Edmonton Oilers have not had a good free agency day since I have been following. Yes, they signed Hyman, but they've never had a perfect free agency. This is the closest thing they'll get. Again, the only thing stopping A+ is the Josh Brown signing. That didn't need to happen. I don't know why he got 3 years. So therefore, not an A+. Without it, Arvidsson is the perfect player for the Oilers right now. Jeff Skinner is the scoring forward that the Oilers have needed since forever. Matthias Janmark and Connor Brown back to keep the penalty kill at the godly over 90% that it was in the playoffs. What? Again. Beautiful. Adam Henrique is back to bring that Henrique Brown Janmark line. And that might be the 4th line. I'd probably say it's 3rd, but who knows? I could care less about Colin Delia. It's a C signing. It doesn't move any needles. Connor Carrick doesn't move any needles. But you can't be mad at... You can't even say they had a just above average free agency. The Oilers nailed it on the hit of the head. I think what's going to happen is most of the recaps were done right after all the big names got off. A couple hours later where you may have seen the Janmark signing, but the Oilers will be seen as minor winners today by most people because the recaps did not do it justice. The longer the day went on, the higher the Oilers got into eventually being, I did not expect this. I thought we were going to have, at best, a B+ day. I thought we were actually going to have a C+ day. I thought we were going to get one piece and sign a bad contract because that's what the Oilers do. Jeff Jackson has said that he doesn't like being the general manager. He should remain the general manager. If the Oilers sign Stan Bowman, I might not go to a game until he's fired. Because that thing that happened, not good. However, sorry, I just take a look at the time we have here. I cannot justify having the Oilers below A. You want to have Carolina ahead of them? I disagree with you heavily, but sure. But no team made as cohesive of a depth in lineup than this team. You have, and keep in mind, this is all with the caveat that an Evander Kane trade is likely. Cody Ceci will be probably also moved. The big thing is they got to get Kane to waive the NMC. If somehow events transpire and Kane doesn't waive his no move clause, then it goes down to like a B plus, maybe a B, depending on how bad the outfall is, because that'll be funny. But they're gonna get rid of that cap, and it's like you've wanted things to happen for so long, and it finally does, and it feels like, oh yeah, you've wanted this to happen, so that's why you do. Not only did I want it to happen, let's go to Armchair GM for a second. Was this the one? No. That was when I already thought Kane was going to be gone. What? Oh yeah, I did not save the other one. I Armchair GM'd Arvidsson and Mantha, but he would have been Skinner. So basically, in exact dollars, Mantha and Arvidsson. But transferred to Skinner and Arvidsson. Connor Brown, I actually had it pegged at 1.5. I also had Janmark pegged at 1.5. I thought their playoff performances would have been more of a factor. Thankfully not. I did not want Corey Perry to re-sign, but I mean, if you look at it as a player, he's a solid player. If you look at it as curse, scary. I see curse, and I'm not even that superstitious outside of hockey, but when it comes to hockey, Corey Perry kind of scares me. Or we'll be saved by the fact Jeff Skinner has never even been in the playoffs. I'm very happy, but like, I think this free agency is gonna shape the league for the next couple of years. I cannot stress how important this free agency is. And not only that, the fact that we have 26 teams competing is insanity. 26 teams are competing for the playoffs this year. The only way we ever get that is if the same, get higher, is if the same teams keep competing and Montreal, Calgary, Anaheim, one of the teams that are trying to develop. We aren't going to get much more competitive of a league than this. And I think this free agency was the best possible start to this. I look forward to what comes after. Looking at the players left, I'm still interested to see where Tarasenko goes. Jake Brana is also a guy who, if the Oilers didn't get anyone else, I would have liked them to go for, but I'm interested to see where he goes. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of teams up here go down because of the players that are left. It's hard to sign Tyson Barrie, Mike Hoffman, and John Klingberg to positive contracts. Same with Ryan Suter, Jack Roslovich. It's hard to find those ideas good. However, I think right now this is where it stands. And luckily, the Oilers don't have enough cap to overspend on one of those guys. I don't know. It's night and day, the difference between Holland. And I kind of feel a little proud that I predicted some of them. Almost to the dollars. It makes me feel like one day I could actually do the job, but I know that's not happening. I don't have any connections. I'm too young. And pretty much the only way I'd ever even have a chance is randomly encountering Jeff Jackson on the street, begging him to hire me as some sort of intern. And yeah, so this is the closest I'll ever get. Being happy about my overly positive predictions being surpassed. I would have liked Mantha, though. Calgary, you mother... That's the one thing I'm kind of disappointed is Calgary got instead of us. Kind of sad. But to end this video off, I want to say that I originally wasn't going to do hockey content just because I feel like it's a bubble, but the more and more I look at it, I like talking about hockey. I don't have a lot of people to talk to hockey about, aside from a couple close friends, and even then, very few of them know a lot about hockey. So, yeah, I'm taking another whack at this, and if this video gets more than 1,000 views, you can bet you're going to see another, probably more in depth, and especially if this gets 1,000, I'm making a video on how this is going to be the most competitive season I have ever seen, and I extremely look forward to that. I hope you all have a good afternoon, evening, and good night, or a good morning if you're somehow watching this in the morning, but I don't think I've ever had positive views. Yeah, have a good day. Sorry for the poor audio. I'll try and figure out how to edit it, but not tonight. Peace.